guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we are going to be doing a beginner sewing tutorial. Today we're going to be making ears. Now normally when I make ears for my art dolls, I try to leave it kind of simple and I usually just take some felt and some of the fur fabric, glue them together and call it done. But I wanted to go a lot more detailed this time around. Even though it is going to be a pretty simple sewing project, I wanted to have the ears look really nice. So I messed around with a pretty decent pattern and I'm going to show you guys how to make a wolf pair of ears and a fox pair of ears. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start out with the wolf ear pattern first, just because I made this one a little bit easier than the fox ear pattern. And if you guys want to use these patterns, I have them up for sale in my Etsy shop. I'm going to sell them together mainly because they're just very simple, so I figured you'd get more for your money if I sold both of the pairs together and you'd have more options. So again, just check the links down below if you guys want to download these patterns and use them to make your own ears. Anyways, for the wolf ear, we're going to have the front of the ear and the backing of the ear. The backing of the ear is going to be one solid piece unless you want to add any type of markings to it, and then the inside of the ear, the front portion, is going to be broken up into different colors of fur fabrics. Now you're welcome to use whatever fur fabrics or other type of fabrics you want to use for this. I'm just using these ones because I liked how they look together. So for the front of the ear, I broke it up into 3 different sections. I wanted to add a frame of white around it, so there's a strip of white that goes around almost the entire ear. There's a section broken off to where we can have a fluffy spot for the base of the ear, and then the middle portion, which is the inside of the ear, I'm using a pink kind of very short plush fur fabric, but you're also welcome to use felt for this if you don't have a plush short fabric that you like. Now when cutting out your fabric pieces for your pattern, I recommend leaving about a ½ inch of extra fabric. That way if you want to use a sewing machine, it's easier and your pattern doesn't shrink down after sewing it. So keep a little bit of extra fabric around your pattern when you cut your fabric out. So I'm going to take the fabric pieces that I cut out for the front of the ear and I'm going to start sewing them together. Now I'm going to hand sew my pieces, but you are completely welcome to use your sewing machine for this. I've left the patterns pretty easy to where you should be able to run them through a sewing machine. The only reason I'm not is because I was being really lazy and I didn't want to pull out my sewing machine and deal with it, so I just hand sewed everything. But when it came to sewing the front and the back of the ear together, I decided that I was just going to pull it out, mainly because it just leaves a straighter line and I don't have to worry about the fabric bunching up. So I used the sewing machine to sew the 2 layers together. So I sewed those together, I flipped them right side out, and now I'm going to make an insert. That way the ear can hold its shape a little bit better. To make the insert, I'm going to be using a 16 gauge wire, and I'm also going to be using stabilizing fabric. This is the type of fabric that you tear away after doing embroidery. So I'm going to take some stabilizing fabric, and I'm also going to take the pattern that we use to make the backing of the ear. I'm going to trace around that, and I'm going to cut it out. The only thing is, when I cut it out, I'm going to cut a little bit extra off of it to make it a tiny bit smaller. That way it'll fit into the ear. Then I'm going to take my hot glue gun and I'm going to glue the wire to the edge of our stabilizing fabric. So I'm going to lay out my glue, press my wire into that, and then I have a second stabilizing fabric cut out and I'm going to put that on top of that, pretty much sandwiching the wire between the 2 layers. Now if you want, you could also try and sew the wire into place on the stabilizing fabric. It might be a little bit more time consuming, but you wouldn't have the hot glue to worry about. And then I'm just going to take the insert and I'm going to slide it inside of my ear. After that, I'm going to sew the insert in place so it doesn't move around inside the ear. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these layers together. So I'm going to pretty much follow the seam where the white fur fabric meets the plush pink fabric. I'm going to hide my sewing in that seam. So I'm going to do my sewing machine first and see how it works, but you're also welcome to hand sew this. If you do decide to use your sewing machine for this, just make sure that that wire that's inside of the ear is well out of the way. That way you don't accidentally hit it with your sewing needle. Lastly, I'm going to sew the base of the ear, closing everything up. So that's how I did the wolf ears. Now we're going to move on to making the fox ears. Now with the fox ears, they are a little bit different in shape, but not too much. They're just kind of a little bit more narrowed. Other than that, what we're also going to be doing is I'm going to try and add that little fold part. If you've ever seen like a dog or cat's ears, they have that section that has like basically 2 layers of skin and there's a little gap in between. It's actually called Henry's Pocket. I have no idea why it's called Henry's Pocket, but that's basically what it's called. And I just thought I'd try it out and see if I could add that extra little bit of detail to the ears. So like the wolf ears, our fox ears have a backing and a front, and the front is going to be broken up in a few different types of fabrics to give a bit more detail to it. The only thing different is I went a little bit simpler on this one because we're doing Henry's Pocket. So I'm going to have a white trim of fur fabric going around the edge of the ear, and then I have that plush pink fabric that we used on the other ear. And this plush pink fabric is the same fabric that we're going to use to make our pocket. So I'm going to sew our pieces of fabric together for the front of the ear, and then I'm going to take the pieces of fabric for our pocket, and I'm going to start sewing those together too. And our little pocket is going to be sewn into place while we're sewing the backing and the front of the ear together. So I'm going to take the backing of the ear and the front of the ear, and I'm going to start sewing these together. So I'm going to sandwich them together with the fur portion on the inside, and I'm going to go around the edge. Then we can flip our ear right side out, see how it looks, and then we can add the insert for this as well. Now the only difference with this insert is we're going to have to go around our pocket. So I'm going to trace my pattern onto the stabilizing fabric, and I'm going to cut away the section that would have gone into the pocket. And I'm also going to cut away that extra bit so that it's small enough to fit inside the ear. Then, like we did with the wolf ear, I'm going to glue and put our insert together, and then I'm going to put it inside the ear and sew it in place. Okay, so here's our first pair of ears. These are the wolf ears. I kind of made them big enough to where, like, if you wanted to, you could put them on a headband or something. And then also I have the fox ears. These we went, oops, I'm holding them backwards. These I went a little bit more detailed because I wanted to do that little fold thing that they have, so I added just a little bit of a crease where it kind of tucks in. Nothing too detailed, but I just wanted to try something out different with these ones since it's basically the same ear, just shaped a little bit differently. And like with the wolf ones, I have the fox ears roughly about the size where they work pretty well if you wanted to put them on a headband. Anyways, I'm going to be selling these patterns together in my Etsy shop, so I'm just going to have a simple listing for both of them together. I figured it's such a simple project, you might as well get 2 patterns with it. So those are my Etsy shop. Check the links down below. I also have links down below to all the different materials that I like using, so if you guys are interested in making these and doing it yourself, I've got all that available. The links are affiliated links, so if you want to buy anything through them, it does help support the channel. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, to all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.